Actually,
Yeah, you're live.
yeah.
Yeah, just look straight. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Good evening, friends. Thank you for joining me every evening to follow what's happening in India and abroad. And thank you for sending me your useful comments and suggestions. If you believe in this channel, do share it with your friends and spread the message. Our only mission is to bring you the truth at both sides of the story. Thank you for your support. We've been trying our best to bring you various topics that are of interest to you, and also topics that are, troubling many people around the world, whether it's health or, educational, mental. So today we have Dr. Rajalakshmi Kandaswamy, who is an autistic expert with us. Welcome, Doctor.
Namaste, Meenaji. Thank you for having me on the platform.
Thank you. And she is an expert who, has been working for several years on this subject, and she has something very special to share with us that we do not know. So I'm sure we'll learn a lot more after our talk with her. And also, after a few, say around 10 minutes, your own Anuradha Kurup will also be joining us. As I told you, Anuradha is a special children's teacher as well. So she has over 30 years of experience. And so thank you again, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So first we'll start with Doctor. So just for as a reference, I just wanted to know, uh, what is autism? If you can explain it in simple words, we can just move on to a few general questions before we move to what's troubling the world now and what are your solutions for it.
Okay. Actually, there are two ways to address this. One I would call the problem-oriented approach. I mean, which is the general practitioners and conventional medicine, definition. If you generally Google and see the general definition that would come up, usually is autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder, lifelong neurodevelopmental disorder with no cure. This is what generally comes up. But actually, the actual real reason is the energy disturbance. So, based on the solution-based approach to autism, the definition of autism would be it's an energy sensitive state of being. And at a lower frequency, the limiting symptoms dominate. And at the higher frequencies, the gifts and talents blow. So the more the person learns to stay at the higher frequencies, they can thrive with autism. That's another way of looking at it. And the most important thing, why all of us should engage in this conversation, it's so vital for us to meet on this platform in this manner, is because it's the next stage in human evolution. Autism is the next stage in human evolution, which is why more and more of these children are coming on this planet. They are being
Oh,
born. And if see, it's like it may seem contradictory or paradoxical that on the one hand I'm saying it's an energy sensitive state of being and energy disturbances may be there and all of that, the energy sensitivity. On the other hand, I'm also saying that it's the next stage in human evolution, but actually it is not. Meaning, once we understand that okay, more and more children are going to come, this is not a disease, this is not something that needs vaccination, this is a condition, plus
yeah.
it's a next stage in human evolution. So why the rest of the people or the neurotypical people, the general public needs to get involved is because they or the people who don't understand autism need to upgrade themselves, meaning they need to understand this to the level that they are able to handle these children, because they are anyway going to come forth on this planet. It's up to the rest of us to be able to ensure that they are able to thrive with their gifts and talents rather than suffer with their limiting symptoms. So this is what autism is, and this is a solution-based approach that I'm focusing on.
Yeah. So I also heard you speak, and see, one point that you said is that some people have a lot of positive energy about them, and there are people who have negative energy, and autistic children are people with negative energy. Is that what I understood from you?
I would say that the more accurate understanding would be this, that they are highly energy sensitive, meaning they are born with this extra gift of, it could also be called as a gift or it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Meaning, the answer to your question is they are sensitive to both positive and negative energies. And they have a gift of focus. So if the focus is in the direction of positive energies, then they thrive. It goes in the range of Asperger's, like for example Elon Musk and a lot of people in Hollywood. Many
Yeah.
of them are diagnosed with autism or the higher end of the spectrum,
Yeah.
autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah.
But if the focus is on the negative energies and they're exposed to more and more of this negativity, then they are more likely to harm themselves and also get violent. So we see both ends.
Yeah.
Basically, they're energy
So
sensitive.
I
It's
know,
up to
see,
us to
what you're
understand
saying is
this.
so true, Doctor, because see, I know of a couple who have a son who is autistic, and it's very sad because he's a very handsome, tall boy. So let me just add Anuradha. She's here. So let me just add. Welcome, Anuradha.
Hi, Anuradha.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Yeah, Anuradha is a doctor. She has 30 years of experience working with
Wonderful.
such gifted children, and I wanted her to also listen to what you say, because this is a very educative experience for not only us, for all the viewers as well, because there's very little spoken about autism, and people try to brush it away. So it's very important that people know about
Very
it.
little
You
spoken
know,
about autism, and
yeah.
people try to brush
So
it away.
welcome, Anu.
So it's very important that people know about very little spoken about autism,
Just
and people try to brush it away.
I think you can just off the. I think you have the TV on.
I think there's a small problem. I just reconnect.
Okay, so just mute yourself till it becomes okay.
Just a moment. Small problem. I just reconnect.
Okay, yeah. So what I was telling you, doctor, is that, see, I know of a young boy who's maybe at this time he would be around 14 or 15 years, and he was recognized to be autistic, and the parents did not, unfortunately, send him to a special school. So they thought that he would become normal, and that's how they. But then, as you say, they become violent after a certain stage because people don't understand them. That's the main reason. And he started becoming rather, shouting in the flat, and uh, which would agitate the parents. And I would like to tell you that the father is a doctor himself, despite that. So even now, if you see him, he's a very normal, handsome boy, but he does things that make people very scared of him. So it's really the wrong notion that society has about such children that make them stuck in this rut. Yeah. So
Yeah.
back to you, doctor.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Anuradha
Yeah,
wants to say
hold on.
something, or should I
Am
say?
I audible right now?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Okay. So I was namaste and thank you for the introduction. Wonderful to meet with you, Doctor. I was listening with great interest to your introduction, and I must say, despite decades of working in this field, what you spoke about energy is something very, very new to me, and I'm fascinated by it. And I'm really going to read up a little more on that. And yeah, what as Meena shared, it's really sad that somehow we've got to begin normalizing talking about, as you said, autism is not an illness, or Down syndrome is not an illness. Okay,
Yeah.
it is a certain energy state, or it is a certain personality characteristic, for want of a better word. So
Yeah.
even say, as Meena was talking about her friend, a doctor who still struggles with accepting or being able to share with the world that his own child may have a condition which has come to be labeled or known as autism. And
Yeah.
because of that reluctance, the child and definitely the family, they suffer and struggle so much. And the child could have benefited tremendously from all kinds of, intervention,
Absolutely. Yeah.
education, but it's really sad. So that's just what I wanted to share.
Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
Anu.
In
Yeah.
this context, I would like to share or add on to this with a positive, perspective. In the sense that I've already written a scientific article published in a scientific journal where I've emphasized the need for medical doctors to re-educate themselves with respect to this approach, to solution-based approach to autism, because knowingly or unknowingly, when they diagnose autism, invariably they convey, either through words or through their body language or whatever it is, through their energies, that this is a dead end situation and it's a lifelong disaster management kind of an approach. That invariably comes through, and what happens is, because it's an energy sensitive state, I mean that's what the child is experiencing, and also the parents actually. What happens is that the child, along with autism, also develops ADHD. This is so interesting. Many of these children who are autistic invariably, end up having symptoms of ADHD also, mainly because the
Could you
parents'
just
energies gets
elaborate on that?
agitated.
Yeah,
Then,
elaborate
yeah.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I've written a book, How to Heal Autism and ADHD in 30 Days. So initially, I was thinking only in terms of autism. I was dealing with these children, and then I found it very interesting that many of these children also have ADHD. And
Yeah.
when I explored further, I realized that the energies of the doctor has a huge impact right at the beginning when they deliver the diagnosis to the parents, and the parents become more and more agitated, or they get scared of the diagnosis, then there is more energy disturbance. Added to the primary energy disturbance, it's already there in them. And this precipitates the ADHD symptoms as well. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I'd like to
What
share
does
a statistic.
ADHD stand for?
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Many of them become hyperactive in simple terms. Along with autism, they develop hyperactivity also. Now, in this context, I'd like to share a statistic, the recent statistics that in the US, they have done this study and they have found out that almost 32% of autistic children, they either harm themselves or are at danger to other people. And autistic adults, the percentage is almost 49%, almost 50%. So this is a major concern, and in Massachusetts, state in the U.S., school, what do you call the court has given a judgment overriding an FDA opposition, where in a school they are allowing electric therapy, shock therapy, to control these children. This is the state we are in now. I mean, how do we go about
Really
handling
bad, really bad.
Yeah, and India's, no better. The same statistics applies across the board. I mean, like MIT researchers have predicted this. This prediction was done in 2014 that by the year 2025, the same rate continues. 1 in 2 children are likely to be diagnosed with autism, and the rate is only rising. It's not decreased.
Very shocking. Yeah, it's very shocking.
Yeah, and the other thing is the most, I would say the pertinent, urgent reason, to discuss this topic, apart from what Anuradha ma'am just shared, that we need to normalize the discussion about this, is the urgency of it. More than normalization, normalizing the discussion, it's come to a point of very urgent emergency situation, and this is not an exaggeration. California state has issued a public document report declaring autism as a emergency crisis situation. 2020, which is easily available. If you Google California Autism Crisis Report, you can find it. You can download it.
So, doctor,
so this is
I'll just interrupt you here. Yeah. So, what is the reason why there is such a, there's going to be such a high rise in autistic children?
Yeah. So, one thing is, across the years and over the years, everybody, has come to a definite understanding that environmental pollution plays a very important role.
Yeah.
Water, food, and of course, it has gone even to the extent of pesticides and all of that. So pollution is one aspect of it, and the more important aspect I would say is stress. And this is from my research. I found out that stress during pregnancy, the mothers being stressed during pregnancy because the fetus is energy sensitive, gets more affected than the quote unquote normal fetus developing such a mother. So these children are already energy sensitive, and it starts right in the womb, which is why we need to address this right from pregnancy stage. We need to, reduce, deliver tools, give support to the mothers and pregnant ladies, which they can apply on their own, reduce their stress, and we can, definitely improve the outcome. That's another thing. And like I said, because it's the next stage in human evolution, this is the way we are going to go. If humanity has to survive, and not only survive but thrive, most quote unquote neurotypical people, we have kind of normalized stress, and we have normalized, not only normalized stress, we have increased the tolerance to it, and we look down upon people who cannot handle stress. We think that they are incapable of, and stigmatize them. But the point is, energy sensitive children, to put it in very simple terms, suppose the father is having some energy disturbance in the heart. Okay, let's just say father of the child, autistic child. Now the child will tune into those disturbances and start presenting the symptoms right now, rather than wait for the father to get heart attack. By which time the father would say, maybe I was stressed. But the child senses all this earlier on. Meaning, more and more of these energy sensitive children coming into this world is a very wonderful thing for humanity itself. Because we will then understand what is stress, what is a normal way of living, what is a natural way of leading our lives. Because most of us have forgotten what it feels like to feel quote unquote normal, because stress has been made as normal. So I would say that all of these factors, play a role in more of these children coming forth like this. And we need to address this from all angles.
Yeah. Anu, would you like to?
Yes, I think this is just fascinating. And while I would not be knowledgeable enough to come in, to share much on the medical, perspective, I'll come in from an educational perspective. Energy sensitive, that's a very, very the right term. Our students who have autism are very energy sensitive, and as teachers and educators and the whole school community which works with them, we are very careful to see that we keep the environment around them as calm as possible. At the same time, we do continue to desensitize them to calmness, by which I mean, at the end of the day, my classroom may be a calm space, but the world outside will not be,
You know,
right? So we need to be able to train and help these students to function effectively in the world outside. Now, over the years, over three decades that I've been working, I found that some of our Indian practices like yoga and meditation help tremendously in helping these children to stay calm. I mean, all kinds of chaos could be happening around them. Now, these are students who are they have hyperacusis. They are students who pick up, disturbances very fast, and they react to them, right? So for them, it's very, very difficult. So when I do workshops with teachers, or, with just groups, I always tell them, imagine what it would be to sit, to go into a country and where everybody is speaking Chinese or a strange language, and there's noise all around you and you cannot understand a single word. I said, imagine sitting in a room where there's a clanging of vessels right through. And sometimes what I do is, we do these workshops where I ask for pin drop silence, and then suddenly from the back, I drop a vessel very loudly and everybody startles. So I said, for the child with autism, he lives in a world like this. For me, the sound of the fan whirring is a normal sound. But for a child with autism and hyperacusis, it becomes the overpowering sound, and because of that energy disturbance within themselves, they then begin to display a lot of as restlessness and fidgety behavior and ADHD. And I'm sure we would do the same, right? If we were constantly, I mean, we sit in a noisy environment, and after 10 or 15 minutes, we just need to get away. So these are some of the perspectives I was bringing. And whenever, if I may take a couple of more minutes, Meena, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, quite often when we talk to parents, and when we, talk to friends, I always tell them, give them this analogy that, if your child had a open wound, right? He hurts himself playing. What is it that you would do? He would come in, you would clean the wound, and you would put, maybe, you would clean it with Lifebuoy or something, and you would watch it for a day, and the next day you feel it's not getting better. You may, just give him a painkiller, and you may clean the wound, and you may put a Neosporin, right? If it gets better, great, all good, right? But third day, fourth day, you find it's, you will then say, look, let's go to a doctor, right? Because it's a wound or it's a fracture. But when it comes to certain energy disturbances or issues with learning or with autism, you keep delaying it. Now, in the wound, the analogy of the wound, if you delay it to the point that the infection gets so bad that gangrene sets in, right? You wouldn't do that. So why is it that we are so reluctant? It's not just about learning. It's not just about educational needs. Anything to do with mental health, depression. Arey, stop crying. It's okay. Hota hai. But even the family members of children with autism and, ADHD, the mothers, they go through so much. So I think I always tell them, look at it just as a signal that the body is giving you, where you just need to observe, and if needed, go to a professional. And if you go to a professional, the doctor will give you the right antibiotic, and within 5 days, you'll be absolutely okay. So if you go to a person who assesses, an educational assessment professional, or you go to a special educator, or you talk to the principal of the school, she'll be able to help you, right? And you would be able to help the child instead of struggling. That said, the stigma around this and the lack of empathetic professionals is another debate altogether, and we really need to. So I can understand the reluctance of parents because they feel their child will be labeled, and so that is another debate. Yeah.
Doctor, before you speak, Jayanti is asking you, what are the different levels of autism? Severe, moderate,
Okay. Uh, there are actually two ways of going about it with respect to the solution-oriented approach. One is, of course, the general understanding that it's a spectrum disorder, autism spectrum disorder. So mild, moderate, severe. This is a range that one terms that one uses. The other way of addressing it would be like depending on how energy sensitive the child is. We can classify the across the range. Another approach that I find very practical is most depending on the symptoms that the child presents.
Yes, can you tell us
Like
about
they
the
are
symptoms?
classified as from it could be like non-verbal, children with gut issues, or it could be PDD NOS, a pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, or it could be autism with seizures, or it could be the higher end, which is Asperger's. So there are various ways of classifying autism. And the approach that I find, best, what shall I say, serves the child and the parents in terms of, helping them deal right away with the limiting symptoms is this categorization. Like in my Autism Solutions app, this is a categorization that for ease of, access and diagnosis, I use in terms of the symptoms that I said, gut issues or seizures or plus autism with ADHD, Asperger's, PDD, NOS, autism with seizures. These are the different classifications. But
Doctor,
regardless of the classification, yeah.
Yeah. So, doctor, see, let me just tell you a small incident. See, the same child that I spoke to you about. One day, what happened was suddenly he was missing from his home. Okay. And the mother and the father got very scared. And since they were living in my mother's apartment complex, everybody decided to help them, to search for him. And we all went around looking everywhere. And finally, a couple said that they had found him, wandering somewhere, a little further away from the home. And somehow, because looking at the boy, very nice, very cultured boy, looking at him, they felt something is wrong. And they asked him, like, where is your home? And somehow they felt that this is the place and they brought him back. So luckily, they got the son back. And I could see the agitation that the parents felt. But does this happen very often amongst children?
Yeah, it is.
What is the
It's
reason?
extremely often. It happens more often than we could even think in terms of digesting it. Because I deal with patients from all over the world. This is a very, very, very common occurrence. And in countries like Canada, the parents are even penalized in terms of saying child abuse and not caring for the child. It's such a traumatic experience across the board for anyone. And this is very common, and this also is included in what I had earlier mentioned, isn't it? That the percentage in terms of self-harm and being a harm to other people and not being aware of the surroundings. Now, this happens because the scientific basis of this, why the child becomes like this, is because of two reasons. One is the autistic children or autistic being, they are energy sensitive is one thing I said. The other thing that is prominent in them is they lack energy boundaries, meaning they don't know where they end and the other person begins. This is a very important aspect that people need to be aware of. They're being energy sensitive, and the other thing is lack of energy boundaries. So we the energy basis approach of it of autism, healing in terms of intent healing approach that I use. That is applied energy medicine and applied intentional epigenetics. Is first I work with the parents because like Anu ma'am shared just now. One interesting, it's a wonderful thing that what I would like to highlight in what she shared is more than keeping the space calm around the children, it is her state of being that matters, meaning she being calm within herself.
Yes.
So the teachers or the caregivers and the parents, they need to first experience that calm within themselves, because these children will tune into fake sense of calm, or are trying to appear calm while inside being agitated. Because they're energy sensitive, they easily sense that difference. So the person dealing with an autistic child, first they need, like ma'am said, the approach that she's using is excellent, yoga, meditation. But what I would like to emphasize is the parents and the teachers and the caregivers also need to do yoga and meditation first, so that they are. So the state of being is important. The healing happens because of the state of being of the caregiver or the person interacting with the autistic child. So you may not even need to speak to the autistic child if your presence is such that it's calming, soothing, meaning for yourself, by yourself, your state of being is such, automatically it will help the autistic child. They will immediately feel that because they're so highly energy sensitive. So it all boils down to very simple. The children are just a reflection of what is not okay within all of us. And it's not inadvertently they're reflecting it back to us. So we are the ones who need healing. It's the parents, it's the
I think,
caregivers, it's the world
So,
who needs to heal
yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Which is why
So
more
I
of
think,
the
Doctor, what has been told to us through generations, listening to calm music, trying to be, be very calm, as you said, meditate. All these things are so important for the coming child, for a mother. So
Yeah.
as you say, the main problem is agitation and stress. And I see a lot of comments from people saying that, yes, what you say is so right.
Yeah, may I just add on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also seeing the comments coming up, and I'm not as experienced in me as Meena in, going through the comments, so I keep losing track. But yes,
I
as you
didn't
spoke
look
about,
there at all. Okay,
no,
I
no,
see
I
now.
couldn't understand initially what was flashing at the bottom of my screen. So, as you spoke about energy sensitivity, a very simple example to give would be, why I use these simple analogies is sometimes as professionals, we do, even as educators, we use terms that come so easily to us, but to a parent whose child has just been diagnosed maybe, or who's wondering whether to go in for diagnosis, sometimes they just get very overwhelmed. So I just use these simple analogies to demystify this. When we go into to watch a rock concert. At my age I don't, but at one time I did, right? You're filled with that energy, and you're also kind of singing and
With your
dancing.
peers. Yeah.
Yes, with your peers. And then you go into a temple, the energy is very different, and that
Yes.
energy seeps into you. So for those who are very energy sensitive, like our children with autism, even downs to a certain extent, ADHD, the energy around them really really makes a difference to them. So as a doctor said, it's extremely important that the parents, the family, the teachers around them try to first center themselves, and then work with the child. So here I would just like to bring in a little a spiritual thought that once came to me, and I shared it with colleagues, and a parent who told me that she just found that very powerful, is that we work, I also teach higher classes where we are always running with syllabus and exams. But when I work with children with special needs, I this is how I put it. I said, I enter a space where time pretty much freezes to the now, this moment, and it also expands to the whole universal consciousness. And you're in this space. So when I have the 30-minute class, you're actually in this very, very, for want of another word, a very divine space. It's a very pure space, and it's just fascinating. And I'm just so very blessed and so very privileged to be a part of the life and educational journey of so many young adults, and I don't say that I teach them, I learn alongside them.
Yeah.
We share this life and educational journey together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doctor, see, what I wanted to ask you is that, see, how early can they put their children in specialized schools like this?
Yeah, more than I'm more in favor of inclusive education. And definitely, yes. We have come to that point. One aspect I would like to mention here is the California situation. Why I mentioned that, and why it's a that crisis be. Publicly they have declared that autism situation being a crisis is because these children don't remain children; they become adults. And after they become adults, many of them cannot live independently, and they are put into institutions or in other forms of what shall I say, care system that is there in the US, and it's a huge burden on the society and the taxpayers and everything, which is why now they are all getting agitated about this. And now, with respect to your question that how early do you need to put into special education? Um, uh, uh, you know. uh, Putting these children into the models of ABA and specialized education and all of that has actually resulted in a failure model in California. If you read the document, you will know. So, which is why I would emphasize more on inclusive education, where, like I said, there's a next stage in evolution. So, the quote unquote normal children also need to know how to, live with these children, because we are not going to be there forever. These children are to going to grow up. They are going to grow up into adults. And if by 2025, 1 and 2 kids are going to be diagnosed with autism, what is normal? What is autistic? How are you going to even decide that? And once that stage comes, it's all going to be the society's responsibility to learn how to live with these children. So there is a term that is used, early intervention. I would say the earliest intervention, like I already mentioned, is from the level of pregnancy itself, so that the children who are born, the mother is aware, and the children who are born are more in alignment with the world that we are all stepping into. So they are born healers. Let me just that's the point I wanted to mention when Anu ma'am shared. That she feels that divine. The way she described it is beautiful. And in one word, my whole book is about this. These children are born healers. They're energy sensitive. They heal the rest of the world. So they have that healing capability within them. Actually, so if we intervene right from the stage of pregnancy, which is exactly what I presented to the National Health Mission, my proposal, and to the state government also, that we need to start intervening right from the stage of pregnancy. So once the child is born, and then what you don't answer to your question would be more than going by the symptoms, we need to start educating the children in quote unquote normal schools, and also the teachers and everyone, that okay, children will be like this, they may have this kind of symptoms and so on and so forth. So they are aware that okay, this is nothing to get scared about, this is nothing to run away from, this is something we need to integrate, include, and then we move forward and evolve as an evolved human species. This is the only way forward. So
Doctor?
intervention, I would
Yeah.
say right from pregnancy.
Yeah. So, doctor, you've been presenting these things, what's going to happen in the future, all these things you've been presenting to the, coming to the doctors as well. What has been what has been their response, to your findings?
Okay. Even though I'm a qualified doctor, I mean, I did my MBBS from CMC Vellore, and I did 2 years of MD from JIPMA, and then I switched over to alternative medicine. That's another story by itself. So actually, I didn't start off with autistic children. I was healing all conditions, anything from cold to cancer. And even CNN IBN had done a live show on a healing that I did, where realign the bones without touching the person, the patient, just by passing energies. And so as I was, involved in this kind of healing, a child parents presented a child who was non-verbal. And this child was my first experience, in terms of autism. And I was able to, realign the energies, work with the parents. By the way my approach is first to work with the parents, stabilize the energies, teach them self-healing techniques, and then attend to the child once their energies are stabilized. And then we do the sessions for the child. The child started singing, not talking first, singing.
Oh, okay.
So this is the amazing thing about these children. It's not like they start from ABCD or they start B. That's what most people would expect, isn't it? Okay, non-verbal child or autistic person, when they first start speaking, maybe they'll start from alphabets. It doesn't happen that way. They speak in paragraphs, to the extent that you're left dumbfounded as to how come all this was there within the child, and now it's coming forth like this. So, sorry, I lost track of your question. I got involved in this.
No, so what I was saying is that, see, you've done a lot of research in this area, and
Doctors.
these are the things that you've been presenting
Yeah.
forward. But I believe there's a lot of skepticism to receive your ideas.
Now, I would say this is like, there is a term which is called cognitive dissonance. Fear and cognitive dissonance is what I face when I present this to the doctors. Cognitive dissonance is, like ma'am said, using an analogy. I mean, this analogy is coming to mind. Presented simply is, there was a time when people thought the earth was flat. And so they believe that they're able to walk on the planet, on the earth, because it's flat.
Yeah.
Okay. And then suddenly one fine day, they discovered that's not the case. And so this is a complete, literally a shift that, certain people could not digest overnight. There were people, okay, fine, that's over. That's the world we lived in. Now this is the world. So even though the evidence is presented that, see, the earth is, it's a sphere or a tilted sphere, whatever, it's not flat. And then, but if they believe that, no, I'll fall down, because my belief is that I'm able to walk because the earth is flat. Now, if you're telling me that it's spherical, definitely I'm going to fall off the planet or some such thing. Then, there is this jarring of, what shall I say, information, evidence that's presented. And so they go into a kind of denial, and actually it's called cognitive dissonance, because they're not able to take in. This is what I see with respect to doctors. They have this, state of cognitive dissonance, because this whole approach is completely different from what is being taught in medical colleges and, schools and everything. Because there's nothing called energy, the term energy and applied energy medicine and applied intentional epigenetics. None of the doctors know about these terms.
Yeah.
So they don't know, and then a doctor comes and presents this. They don't know what to do with me. They just don't know how to deal with this, and then they get scared, because I tell them, I teach the parents how to heal themselves and all that. So my interaction and my experience with doctors has been, abysmally, what shall I say, unencouraging and saddening in many ways. that they're so close-minded. This is a completely unscientific approach. Like when I say the evidence is the child not speaking, the child is speaking. This is the evidence. They see the evidence and then they shut their eyes and they say, "Don't show the evidence. I don't want to see the evidence." This is the general approach that I have, that I've experienced. Not only do they say this, they say, "Don't, say that there's a cure."
Yeah.
There is no cure. I'm saying the child is speaking, and then the definitions need to change. For example, a speech therapist, a general example, I'm just saying, speech therapist, the definition has to shift to a therapist who makes the child speak. As simple as that. There are parents who go to speech therapists for years together, not even days or months, and the child never ever speaks. So, what is the point in labeling yourself as a speech? I'm not against speech therapists or occupational therapy. Let me make that very clear.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is we need to redefine everything. An autism expert, let me start with that. Autism expert is not someone who will deliver the diagnosis saying autism cannot be cured. I can Google that, or you can Google that and find that out. You don't need an autism expert for that. I would say an autism expert is someone who can heal the condition, who can cure the condition. And it is possible, because that's exactly what I've been doing since the past 12 years now. And it's all through only remote healing. And so doctors, yes, doctors' education first. Evidence-based medicine, the criteria has to change, because autism is a spectrum disorder by definition, meaning every case is unique. For example, a child who is non-verbal, the reason why that particular child is not speaking is completely different from the reason why a non-verbal child from another family is not speaking.
Yeah.
The symptom is the same, non-verbal autism, but the underlying energy disturbance dynamics in that family is different from this family. So each case is unique. You have to take it on a case-by-case basis instead of putting everything together and saying double-blind study. It will not work.
Yeah.
You cannot do a double-blind study. It's scientifically impossible.
Yeah. Doctor, also, I find this very shocking that, electric shock treatment is given for children, and it's approved in Massachusetts in 2020, overriding the ban for the same. How is that possible? I mean, have you
actually,
that?
I would say, however difficult it may be, it's easy to be judgmental.
Yeah.
Because the parents, when you actually see these parents and the autistic child, biting themselves, biting other people, banging their head against walls, and then injuring themselves, getting extremely violent, even to the extent of killing people. That happens in the US a lot. So when all of these things happen, they just don't know. I would say lack of awareness, ignorance that this is the underlying cause and how to approach, and there is a solution. The very fact that there is a solution, for example, my book is banned on Amazon. How to Heal Autism in ADHD in 30 Days is banned on Amazon.
Is it available on Amazon?
Available on my website. Pardon?
Is it available on Amazon?
No, it's not, because they according to Amazon, there is no way you can say autism and cure in the same phrase. If this is the approach or solution, see, let me first
they decide. I mean, it's
yeah.
Google and Facebook and Amazon that decides all this.
Yeah,
and that's a very powerful statement, Meena.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful statement and truth that we need to reflect on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, this is very important. So, sorry for interrupting. What do I mean by autism cure? Because there are people jumping on me and pouncing on me and saying, "Don't ever say autism cure." No, the thing is, what I mean by autism cure is freedom from the limiting symptoms of autism, so that the child can thrive with their gifts and talents. This is what I mean by a cure. I'm not saying that you're fixing the child. I'm not because energy sensitivity the child is born with. I'm saying you leverage that energy sensitivity, learn how to foster that, and empower the child and yourself, and allow the child to thrive, because they are geniuses. When you allow that, like how ma'am said, the right environment. She's been working for 30 years, which is amazing. Considering, past 12 years, actually 12 years ago only I first came across, although I'm a trained medical doctor, I was like, okay, what is this and what is this condition, and why are so many people, coming with this sort of a condition? And since 30 years, meaning she's been dealing, now they're all adults, the children whom she has worked with. So her repertoire of experience is something that, which is, I would say, vital for us to engage in a discussion and find out, okay, did they, do they have some records or something, like what happened to these children as adults? All of those things will help us to decide on models that work for our Indian setup and our current situation. And in the same context, I would like to say, why I emphasize on the California report is the same situation, or more or less the same situation, is already there in Chennai now. Meaning, in Chennai, a private builder has built 100 homes or apartments for autistic adults. Meaning, the parents, the next thing that they go to, once they say, the doctor say there is no cure, they say, after me, what happens?
Yeah.
After us, what happens to
That
the
is the
child?
worry.
Yeah, and so what they do is now this approach is, I don't know where this is going to end. So the parents hard-earned money, everything, they cannot trust anybody. Now they are forced to come to a situation where they have to trust the builders. I'm not saying the builders are bad. I'm just saying this is situation. So
Yeah.
you have to trust people whom you don't know, the child doesn't know, and hand them over. With the hope that in that home or whatever,
They
when
will
the
look
child
after them.
becomes an adult and everything, they are taken care of. The situation is already there in Chennai. And not only that, this across socioeconomic status, because when I met the corporation commissioner here, Gagandeep Singh Bedi ji, he was amazing. And right now I'm working with the corporation school children. Where I'm engaging with these parents and the children in the lower socioeconomic status. Even there is autism. That is the most shocking thing. So across socioeconomic status, this is there, and not only that, not only is there autism, they have a special needs children category section also, not just section school corporation. So at all levels, you're having this. This is across the board. This is affecting all strata of society. So this is something that definitely we need to address and take it forward, because it's already an emergency situation as far as I'm concerned in Chennai also. So and the same thing I think would be applied to the rest of India also. But the only thing is you don't have proper statistics. That's another sad part of the whole thing. When it comes to, so if not now, when, I just don't know, because beyond the COVID wave, this is the next thing that we'll have to deal with. This report, California report, came up
Yeah.
on the heels of the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, no, just a second before I give it to you. See, you know what, Doctor, I find it very strange. See, you're someone who specialized in this, okay? And also, I'm not only talking about your field, but in many other fields, there are many learned people, who can share a lot with the government and, change a lot of the methods and also advise the parents, in a certain, there can be lessons for the parents to learn, because even from the messages that we are getting, many of the parents are not aware of what to do. So, but I've noticed that we get a very lukewarm response. Either they are threatened, as you say, in some way, because you're questioning their own intelligence or their specialization, and they feel that if you come in with your knowledge, they may become less in the eyes of whoever they're working for. So these are a lot of the things that we face, and it's very important that the government should listen to intelligent voices like yours, because you're doing research as well as dealing with a lot of children. And here we have Anu also, Kurup. She's also, a teacher who's had so many years of experience. It's voices like yours that have to be heard. So yes, please continue, Anu. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, what you said about the lukewarm response, it was very interesting when I began as a rookie with just textbook knowledge and less of experience. A very experienced professional was guiding me, and when Google started and the internet started, and she said, just open up some research pages on Down syndrome and autism and ADHD, and she said just read through it, and she said, did you read through it? And she said, can you summarize it for me? So I did summarize it, and it talked about the need for treatment and medicine. And so, and then she said, okay. And then she said, is that all? So I said, yes. And she said, she pointed to the right hand corner of it was just written that sponsored by, and it was the name
Ah,
of a drug company that I don't want to name
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
medicine that is given to. So so when we go on to the internet again, that was a huge learning for me. So what is being told to us by media? What are we seeing as normal and not normal? Now here I want to say, if it's normal for children to play on PUBG and these other games that and then get or for a person to show road rage and say acha he was stressed, it doesn't matter, then why is it not normal for a energy sensitive person with autism to react to the environment? What is normal, what is not normal? One thing that I'd like to just, I see so many comments coming up, and I would just like to add in this little nugget that really helps parents. And what happens quite often is the minute we get a diagnosis, autism, autistic, dyslexic, what happens is then, even as professionals or as families, we put them into a box, right? So that's a box called dyslexia, and there are 5 children with dyslexic, and we in a school that may be less aware or sensitive, Acha, those dyslexic children are treated as one unit. Okay, and they are supposed to exhibit certain learning which falls into a box, but each one of them is an individual with unexplored potential. Now, if you're using, now I will just share that in all our families as housewives, we all have, families where with different tastes for eating. We may have a person with diabetes, we may have an elderly person. Is it that the housewife makes, 20 dishes to suit each person? No, basically what we all do in our homes is you have a basic meal and then you tweak that, right?
Yeah,
For the
exactly.
elderly person. Similarly,
Yeah.
when I share with teachers or parents, I said, you don't need to make new lesson plans. You don't need to do all of that. You have a basic lesson plan, you do it with differentiated instruction, and you'll be able to cover the whole spectrum of
Absolutely.
learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I am a person, okay, I have asthma, right? So if you call me asthmatic and you just put me into a box and say, look, she can't go on the trek and she can't
Yeah.
go on this picnic, uh, that would be a disservice to me.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
the asthma diagnosis
Yeah.
is just used to help and say, look, we're going on a long trip. She needs to carry the inhaler
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
needs to use the inhaler before she goes on the trek.
Compassion.
Therein,
Compassion.
therein lies the value of diagnosis.
Yeah.
As long as the diagnosis is not used to label and discriminate against, that's what I wanted to bring
Yeah.
across.
Yeah, just two
Yeah.
things, Doctor, before I let you continue. Karthik has asked that could we share Doctor's contact. So I've given you my email number because rather than her being bombarded with, sincere requests and those which are not sincere, kindly mail it to me and I'll forward all that to her. There's not a problem. She can decide which is important. Okay. And also, there's a question from Pramila, who says, is there any therapy or solution for a little non-verbal child with autism who's sensitive to loud noises and plugs in ears? Doctor.
This is a very, this very common description with most autistic children, not necessarily limited to, not necessarily categorized with non-verbal autistic children.
Yeah.
And this falls, like a man said, again, we have to use the label, which is sensory processing disorder.
Yeah.
So again, this is again, a conundrum. So everybody has sensory processing issues. I mean, like, see, as a simple example, I would say, once I start working with these children, and they start speaking and all of that, all the
Yeah.
symptoms. I initially ask the parents to make a list of symptoms,
Yeah.
limiting symptoms, which bothers the child, bothers them, and there's a format that I use.
Yeah.
And then we take it, we check it off the chart once everything gets clear, and the child becomes more or less, quote unquote, I wouldn't say normal, I would say energy aligned, energy stabilized. And then they will go on to the other extreme, and then they'll say, now my child, he's okay with these, background noises at home or whatever. Initially, he would have been very sensitive. Then they will say, I want him, doctor, can you fix him in such a manner that we can take him to the mall? To the mall, even I wouldn't go, because the noise there is unbelievable high, and it will damage your ears. So I just tell them, see, that's not the purpose, or that's not the approach that we need to take. In terms of making quote unquote making the child normalized to what the society thinks is normal sensory perception and sensory processing and all of that. That's not where this needs to go. But coming to the specific answer to this question, first we need to. I would like to bring in a component of Ayurvedic understanding of this Vata, Pitta, Kapha. A child. This is an integrated approach, I would say. In that context, I'm addressing this. With climate change affects these children a lot. And climate change these days, on a daily basis, there is so much of it's very hot, it's very cold, and so many changes. It's raining, it's humid, this, that, and the other. So first, they need to find out if there's any vata imbalance. Most of these children who are sensitive to sound, they have vata imbalance. And a general statement that would I would make that would help most not necessarily children with sensitivity to noise and all that, is adding ghee.
Yeah.
Pure ghee to the diet will help in stabilizing the imbalanced vata, which makes them most sensitive. Of course, I would need to go into the specifics in order to be able to give specific answer. This generally which helps everyone, because again, through Western understanding and all that, again, they don't take enough ghee and they say it's bad and all that. All of that is completely gone.
Rubbish.
We need to get back to our own.
Yeah. Have coconut oil, have ghee,
Yeah.
do all the things that they told you not to do.
Important point. Get your gut in order. All that is very important. Immunity, because the brain in the gut, that's another thing I think would be relevant to everyone. The same, the chemical substances that are released in the brain are released in the gut. So I already written an article about this, the brain in the gut. So autistic children, the gut is very important. How you deal with all of this will solve the sensory processing issues as well. Gut is primary more than the brain and the skull in these children. And as
Also,
for the,
doctor,
they can visit my website also, like authenticautismsolutions.com. For
also, doctor, if you
more
don't,
information.
if you're okay, you can also give the email. It's up to you.
It's there on the website.
Yeah,
They can, write to that email ID and it'll reach me, and I will respond as and when
Nina,
appropriate.
there was one question I think from Karthik, which said,
Okay.
"Is autism the same as savant syndrome?"
Okay.
I think that was from
Uh,
Karthik.
Yeah.
Okay, the savant syndrome is, I would say, I said the gift of highly being focused, the Asperger's end of it. Like for example, this is commonly seen if you read, the romanticized description of autism, Asperger's. You find people who are non-verbal, who are great artists, and there was one person, I forgot his name. Like you take him, in a helicopter, and he's an adult, he's a non-verbal autistic person, and you take him one round around Rome or whichever city, he comes back and draws the whole city, on art. I forgot his name. If you Google this particular, if you type this, okay, the person who does this, you'll get his name. So this is a typical example of savant syndrome. And, in common, I would say TV serials is like that Big Bang Theory. Sheldon Cooper is generally, put in the autistic Asperger's category, meaning they're extraordinary genius. That's what the Samantha syndrome. Invariably, it is associated with non-verbal, but in this Sheldon Cooper Big Bang Theory example, of course, his, the speed and whatever his vocabulary is, nobody understands. But anyway, so this is just the general understanding. I would say Savant syndrome, more of Asperger's or high-end autism, where they're highly focused, they're specialized interests, and they focus so much on it that they're geniuses in that area. They may not be able to socialize, and other issues may be there. Yeah.
Dr. Maya is asking you, in autism, is there misfiring or mixed up connection of neurons leading to the child not reacting normally to environment, normal, a state which changes from time to time?
Okay, here I would like to clarify a general misconception that the neurons, once they are set and once the pathway is set, it's set for life. It's not like that. The brain can be rewired. From second to second, it can be rewired. So the neural network, yes, there may be abnormalities, and this again is connected to the gut. So both need to be addressed in tandem. Once that is addressed, this can be completely shifted, meaning erroneous neuronal pathways can be corrected. So that's why it's called neuroplasticity. So the, ancient, it's even retro understanding that, once the neural pathways are set, it's set for life. All that is completely wrong. And now the scientific understanding is that there is neuroplasticity, and you can rewire the brain, you can rewire the gut, and all these symptoms and all these issues will disappear. Yes, those issues will be there. They could be the cause, but it can be corrected, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Also, doctor, you said that if important people are listening to your talk right now, and if even Prime Minister Modi is also listening, what would you like to? What's the kind of message that you would like to give him?
Yeah. Okay. Definitely yes. I would like to convey this message to Modi ji. आदरणीय मोदी जी, प्रणाम. मेरा आपसे ये निवेदन है कि ऑटिज्म की समस्या एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या है, लेकिन इसके लिए एक सोल्यूशन है, और इस सोल्यूशन को आप तुरंत ही अपने NHM या फिर नेशनल हेल्थ मिशन में इसको लाना है. इसके तहत आप लाएंगे तो गरीब लोगों से शुरू होके अक्रॉस द बोर्ड सभी स्टेट्स, सभी कैटेगरीज ऑफ पीपल जो ऑटिस्टिक, जिनके यहाँ ऑटिस्टिक चिल्ड्रन हैं, उनकी जिंदगी में रोशनी आ जाएगी. अभी अब ये पॉसिबल है, ये हम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन इसको NHM के तहत आपको लाना है. ये मेरा आपसे निवेदन है. और ये भी मैं बताना चाहती हूँ कि अगर आप ये करेंगे और प्रेग्नेंट लेडी से हम शुरू करेंगे ये इंटरवेंशन और आउटकम अच्छी तरह से दिखाएंगे, तो दुनिया में भारत पहला देश होगा जो ये डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करेगा, और दूसरे देश भारत को फॉलो करेंगे. ये मेरा आपसे निवेदन है, और मैं मेरा विश है, और मैं आई बिलीव दैट यू विल डेफिनेटली डू दिस. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
No, that's really great. what you're saying, if we can do that, and if it can bring a change to children all around the world as well, it'll be a big service that you're doing. So I hope, in fact, I'll be taking out this part of the video and also sharing it. Hopefully, it'll go viral on Twitter as well. And thank you so much for this session. We're just nearing the end. So let me just see if there is one. Let me just take one or two questions more. Chiku says, my son is mild autistic. Can he become normal in his life?
The person, okay, Chiku, I would like to, first of all, know that you have attracted this, whatever you have attracted here, in terms of what you have listened here, you're already there. You're open to solutions. You're open to receiving solutions. Otherwise, your frequency would have been such that you wouldn't have attended this, a live discussion. So the very fact that you're here is a reminder to you that there is a solution. Yes, your child can be completely healed. And it starts with you being open and being open to receive that, okay, from hope to knowing that, yes, there is a solution. So definitely, yes, your child can be healed.
Yeah. Also, Metal Film says, also, Minaji, where can people purchase Doctor's book? I would like to spread the word about her book in this part of the world. She's in Canada. So this is Sangeeta. She wants to. Yeah. So you can send me also. It's okay. I can also pass it to her because she would like to. She's doing a lot, in documentaries and, very active.
One thing I would like to mention is the proceeds from the sale of this book goes towards funding events to create awareness about autism, such as wall art paintings which you have done, and also we emphasize on pet adoption because pets play, especially Indian mongrel dog adoption. So events such as these, and also printing books and distributing them for free to children. And also, doing some infrastructural repairs in government schools. We use the resources from all of the sale of this book and all of that. A part of it goes towards these activities as well because it's simultaneous and everything. We want to cater to creating awareness and also providing the solution. So when you buy the book, you're contributing to all of this.
Also,
may I take?
Yeah, 1 second, Danu. Also, one thing that I think you are indirectly also telling the viewers is that, see, move on to simpler things like having sattvic food, adopting our own methods, the Indian methods, of Ayurveda, naturopathy. So that, see, what happens is you're cleansing your system of all these things, the what you call the waste that comes from the West, whether it's in packaged food, all these things are harmful for the body. So these are also affecting our body. So indirectly, doctor is also saying that try to live a more pure life. Yes, I know.
Yeah, just to continue with that, in Malayalam, I belong to Kerala, there is a word called chitta, which means that, things are done according to a certain time, a certain rhythm. Even when we grew up, we got up at a particular time, you prayed, then you had a bath, and you went to school, breakfast. We never ate while watching TV. So those kind of routines, when followed, are extremely helpful for children with autism. And so then we are going back again to our traditions, because children with autism respond very their energies get very activated when there is so much disturbance. So one day you're having dinner at 8, one day at 10, one day you're sitting watching TV. So when we go back to our traditional methods, we find that a lot of things, I will not use the word cure because I'm not in that field, but we'll find things becoming easier day to day, and I can see so many questions to all the parents and to the family members out there. I just like to say that have heart. There's a whole community out there. Is your journey going to be easy? No, it's not. But you've been chosen for this journey. And if you don't take this forward for your child, for maybe your niece or nephew, who would speak up, talk to the schools? Yes, there is a long way to go in special education and education. We have pockets of excellence. We have pockets of schools which are doing brilliant work in inclusion. And then we have, schools that are not aware or are choosing not to. But if each one of you who's out here becomes a spokesperson and takes that mantle forward, let's bring that change for our society and for each child who's so affected. That's just my prayer.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
Doctor, one last question before we end the session. It's from Pramila, who says, how to control or manage meltdowns?
Yeah, once a meltdown has started, there's no way to control it. So you have to do things before. You know that it's going to happen. You know the precipitating factors. You know the certain triggers, lead to that situation. So there are techniques that you can apply on yourself, very simple techniques which you can learn, which I teach in the self-healing process, which you need to address before such an event happens, so that it doesn't gain momentum. Those triggers and all of that don't gain momentum, which results in a meltdown. And eventually what happens is those triggers completely disappear. And the energy stability in the child and the parents come. But the solution, the specific answer to the question is, it starts with the parents, it starts with the people dealing with the child, because it's their energies that precipitates the meltdown in the child. So we address this first, and then the rest of it automatically disappears.
Yeah.
And of course, like Matt said, very important, diet, and the state of being, mindfulness, the chitta, whatever she said. That's what I'm saying, a state of being.
Yes.
And what you said, Meena ma'am, Meenaji, about going back to our traditional food, it's already happening, and the universe is supporting us, because in the COVID situation, because of immunity and all of that, people have already started coming to that. So the universe is supporting you. Take one step forward in a positive direction, which is integrative, and which is in a more wholesome evolutionary path it takes us. The universe supports us immeasurably. So we are all supported. Like ma'am said, not just people, a system like this, or having conversations like this is just amazing. I mean, like, I'm so happy that we have had this, we opened up the field like this. And this, like I said, this one step that we have done, or this whatever we have shared in this 1 hour or so, I would say this is a revolutionary discussion that we have had. And
Absolutely.
people will know as we go along. Yeah.
I'm so
Thank you all.
humbled to be part of this discussion.
Definitely, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. And only
It's
one
very satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah. And only one last point that Sanskruti says is, can autistic children start speaking?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Yes.
And this is, the age is irrelevant. Like I said, the child, the experiences that I have had, the children, once they start speaking, in fact, the parents eventually, they say, when will you even shut up, because he's speaking non-stop. It has, gone to such extremes as well. So the point is, yes, the child can and definitely does speak, and it is, the age is irrelevant. It doesn't have to be like, he has been not speaking for 5 years or 10 years, or even adults start speaking. It is possible, and it's already happening. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Dr. Rajalakshmi, and Anu as well. Doctor, it's really nice to see people like you working so passionately, on autism. Not only autism, you're doing several other things, and your passion to push it forward so that more people benefit from it. And we also, realize that there are so many misconceptions about autistic children and how they can be easily helped. And Anu, your experience in the educational field has also added so much of wealth to our viewers. So thank you, both of you. And we will again join in another session. Hopefully, we'll discuss more of this, so that parents, not only parents, I mean, everybody gets educated on a lot of the things that the mainstream media is not discussing.
Yeah.
It's very important that these subjects be discussed and advice be given, by specialists. So thank you
so much, Meena ji and Anuji, and thank you for introducing me to Anuji. Ma'am, you're doing a wonderful service. I feel honored to be connected with you, because 30 years, I know what 30 years, 12 years, I know what I'm
blessed. I was very blessed to be able to hear you and explore a whole new, you've opened up a whole new field. And to the parents, the families, I just want to say lastly that, when a flower doesn't bloom, when a plant doesn't bloom, we don't pick up the plant and throw it away. We fix the soil around the plant. So please have heart. Each of these children will bloom. They will optimize their potential. Please have heart.
Yeah. On that note, thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night to all the viewers who have joined us.
Yes.